Hi, my name is Sarah Johnson and I will be explaining the ghost marriage. I'll be discussing different topics such as the customs, origin, ceremony, and where we stand today with ghost marriages in current culture, how they're performed and how they used to be performed, and different rituals that take place. The origin. Although ghost marriages are traditional in Chinese culture, they are performed in France, Spain, Sudan, and India ever since the 1950s. They are still practiced today, rarely, but the practice has evolved and changed into a more respectful ceremony since the original practice involved real corpses. Arrangement. Typically, the ceremony is set up by the families of one of the deceased, or two of them might actually already be deceased, or an engaged member of a couple has passed, but the living want to go through with the marriage anyways. And there are many different purposes as to why a ghost marriage would actually take place or be arranged. But typically, the families of the bride and groom arranged it themselves. Purpose. Some families do this to ensure that the eldest brother is married before the younger. Some want to continue the family line or integrate an unmarried daughter into patrilineage. Because Chinese custom dictates that younger brothers should not marry before their elder brothers, a ghost marriage for an older deceased brother may be arranged just for a younger brother's wedding to avoid incurring the disfavor of his brother's ghost. Purpose Part 2. Other purposes for performing a ghost marriage include performing the ritual in order to ensure that a dead fiancé does not come back to haunt the family or disturb the family in any way. Some families perform them because they have a deceased unmarried daughter, which is a cultural embarrassment in some cultures, and they're concerned about it, which needs to be addressed, and therefore they may marry her through spirit to save face for the family. Ceremony. The ghost marriages included eating, drinking, socializing, but then a bride would be exhumed from her grave and reburied next to her new ghost husband, a man she never knew in real life. The newer ones include bride and grooms made of flour and paste being buried together. Some are made of paper mache or bamboo, just because today's culture it's not appropriate to re-exhume brides and grooms from their grave. Second part of the ceremony. In the newer practices, the paste bride and groom are placed in arrangement, and the ceremony is audibly read aloud by a religious leader of the family's choosing, if they prefer one. However, today priests are rarely used. It's more of a social gathering and something to celebrate as a formality. Not really anything religious, it's more of a spiritual ceremony. These are a few pictures of the paste grooms and brides. They'll set them up, they will read aloud vows and things like that. They'll actually act like the people are actually there and participating, although obviously both members are deceased. There will still be festivities, eating, dancing, and socializing as if you were at a reception for a typical traditional marriage. Problems today. Due to the old unlawful practices, ghost marriages are outlawed in some places, which resulted in grave robbers digging up corpses to sell on the black market for over $7,000 apiece. People still want to practice the traditional way by exhuming skeletons and bodies, and it's just not appropriate in cultures nowadays. So now, in certain cultures, they're having difficulties with people selling them on the black market, even in public places. One example of that is this picture right here. We have someone publicly selling bodies that they've dug up just in the street or on the corner, and in those cultures, authorities really haven't taken hold of it yet, and so there are pictures out there of people just selling them right there in front of everyone, and it's okay for some cultures, but we consider it something very inappropriate and disrespectful. The setup of the ceremony. When the bride and groom are placed together, The ceremony holds things from their home, such as tables, refrigerators, and personal items. At the end of the ceremony, it is all burned, and so are the paste and bridegroom, or in old tradition, their actual skeletons would be burned at the end. Clothing. The bride is adorned in fancy clothes and jewelry as if she were royalty, and the groom wears fancy clothes as well, and black gloves instead of white because he's deceased. Dowries and bride wealth. The exchange of bride wealth and dowries between the two families involved in a ghost marriage varies between ceremony to ceremony. Families may exchange both, one or the other, or even just red money packets are typical. Both members are adorned with money and gifts. Bride roll. Most of the marriage ceremony and rites are performed due to Chinese custom. In fact, the bride is treated as if she is alive and participating in the proceedings. She is fed at the wedding feast in the morning and invited in and out of the cab, and is told of her arrival at the groom's house. One observable difference in a ghost marriage is that the ancestral tablet of the deceased is placed inside the effigy so that the bride's dummy is animated with the ghost that is to be married, and then placed with the groom's family's tablets at the end of the marriage festivities. Overall, there are many different reasons why a family would perform a ghost marriage, and the ceremony is a lot like a traditional marriage, except makeshift brides and grooms are used due to the fact that the member or members are deceased. This ceremony is a very spiritual experience for those performing or involved in the ceremony, and continues to serve as a sacred tradition for many cultures, although they are predominantly still performed in Chinese culture.